Hiryu no Ken has a real bad case of wrong place, wrong time. And by wrong time, I mean the year 2021. In the context of early 1987, it's clever and innovative. It takes some concepts that we've seen and expands them further than they've ever gone before. But it's also clunky and stiff. I respect the effort, I think it's important historically, but I never want to play it again. Hiryu no Ken, or Flying Dragon as it's known in the US, is our first Famicom game from Culture Brain. As far as I can tell, the Nihon Brain Micro Academy in the credits is just a group from Culture Brain. They're kind of a strange publisher, not many games released for the Famicom, and 80% of them are from two series. I know a story from somebody I know who popped into their offices in the 90s, and they came to the conclusion that Culture Brain was a Yakuza front company. I've got no way to confirm that, but the Yakuza do have legitimate businesses. Given it's the Famicom boom, it kind of makes sense for them to have their own game company. Hiryu no Ken actually started out as an arcade game, but it was changed dramatically when it came to a home console. The arcade game was just a series of one-on-one fights between the main player and a series of opponents, similar to Yayar Kung Fu. For the Famicom, they added these platforming sections. There's a story in the game about rival martial arts schools, and you're trying to recollect some scrolls that have secret techniques on them. But really your goal is to go on a journey to become stronger and eventually become the world champion. Your journey to the World Championship starts out in this side-scrolling stage. On these stages, your goal is to defeat 5 of the monsters released by the evil organization, and then get to the goal. The thing is, monsters appear based on time rather than position in the stage. So it's very likely that you'll reach the goal and not be able to enter it. But the stage loops forever, so you just have to keep going. There's only a handful of monster designs, including for some reason this little girl. When you defeat one of the monsters, they drop a little power symbol, and that fills in one of your bars up top. The fist increases your attack power, the foot increases your jump height and running speed, the wave lets you shoot a beam when you hit punch, the second wave lets you shoot multiple waves, and finally, you get the key to the exit. These statues you find on the side-scrolling levels also have items inside them. The medicine restores a bit of your life, and that one reoccurs if you loop through the stage again. This bag just has some points in it. I think the 1-up is self-explanatory. This icon increases your power in the one-on-one fights. And this strange item gives you a barrier in front of you. It knocks out enemies for a short time, but if you get hit, say by having someone drop on you, then you lose it. On these stages, the B button punches, the A button kicks, and you have to jump by pressing up. You can jump down through platforms by pressing down while you're in the air, but you have to be careful that you don't just fall through everything. Another thing to watch out for on these stages is that sometimes the monsters will jump off into holes, and then you don't get the power scroll. That means you have to go through one more monster in the loop. Every side-scrolling stage only has 4 types of monsters, so you always have to kill the first one twice, even if you do the whole thing perfectly. My other big tip on these stages is to use that wave attack and use it often. So we've completed the side-scrolling stage, it's on to a tournament. And the first one you get to has a tutorial in front of it to teach you how the fighting system works. It's a pretty lengthy one, too. A tutorial like this is something we haven't seen before in Famicom games. Basically, if the circle appears on you, there's an incoming attack, and you press the pad in that direction to block it. If the circle's on the opponent, they have an opening and you can hit them. And then you push in that direction and either punch or kick. There's some special moves that are triggered by pressing A and B at the same time also. Pressing down and doing that will trigger a sweeping leg kick. and if you're in a neutral stance, it'll do a spinning kick. Every time you connect with someone, the KO bar at the top of the screen fills up a little bit more, and every time they hit you, it gets drained away. When it's full, you'll hear an alert sound, and that means you can activate your strongest moves. By pressing up, A, and B at the same time, you do the Hiryu no Ken. It's also just about useless, because it's really easy to dodge. There's another special move that activates with the KO bar. It's only usable against the bosses of the arena fights. In those cases, doing a high punch makes you jump back and shoot a beam at them. There's one more special move worth talking about. If you block a high punch and then immediately press down and B, you do a judo throw. The timing on it's actually a little bit annoying, but it does a lot of damage and the crowd goes wild. There's a pretty good variety of opponents in these matches, and they all have tricks to them that you have to learn. This woman can throw you if you hit her with a high punch, and this guy grapples you when there's no targets showing. You can break free by pressing left and right. In the first two matches of a tournament, your health bar refills after the fight. When you win the semi-final, though, the boss jumps in immediately after you defeat that opponent, giving you no time to recharge. You can replenish yourself during a match by catching these drinks that fly out from time to time. The hitbox on them is a little bit spotty, though. They go into your inventory and you hit select to use one. One thing to be aware of in these matches is that the dots are a guideline, not a requirement. You can dodge a high attack by ducking down, or you might choose to go for a different blow that gets more damage. The dots are useful, but you don't have to use them. When fighting the bosses, the regular attacks don't do a whole lot of damage, so you'll have to use special moves on them. The throws, sweep kicks, and your beam attack are what's really going to make the difference there. I have one more compliment to give about Hiryu no Ken. It's got a really cinematic presentation to the game. There's some fun cutscenes with dramatic music in between matches, and there's a real feeling of story progression. Alright, now the bad stuff. The controls are really stiff and unresponsive in this game. If you're expecting fighting game style reactions, you're not going to find them here. It also really bothered me that it's tough to build up to the Hiryu no Ken, and when you use it, your opponent almost always just gets out of the way. Hiryu no Ken was an enormous franchise in Japan. By my count, there's 15 games in the series, and I think 4 of those were released in the US. We're going to see 3 more Famicom games in the series before we're done. I can get why Hiryu no Ken was a big hit. We haven't seen anything like this on the Famicom yet, and even if it doesn't play quite right from the hindsight we have over 30 years later, it's a pretty creative game. But that gameplay is so unrefined, I can't really go back to it. Somebody has to make those first few steps on the road, and that's Hiryu no Ken. But I think I'll just skip ahead to the destination.